It's not a competition. Don't compare your lifts to other people. Something people like to say a lot of fitness professionals like to say that, and I am going to respectfully disagree. I'm going to respectfully disagree. And I'm going to say that that is a weak, effeminate attitude. Absolutely is. And that's half the problem that we have with young men who train today is they get caught up in a very feminine mindset, not only in their training goals, but even in their attitude. And now, people who say things like that mean well. They mean well because they're saying, well, don't ego lift. Well, ego lifting doesn't mean don't lift heavy, okay? Hitting a 1,000-pound deadlift with perfect form and not injuring yourself is not ego lifting because you used good form and you lifted a weight that you were capable of lifting. I want to make that clear. That's not ego lifting. Breaking a world record with good form is not ego lifting. Ego lifting is flopping around and doing partials and bouncing weights and things that you're not capable of lifting. Okay, it's a difference. They don't want people to ego lift, or they want them to be weak pussies. It's usually a combination of the two. Right? Weak pussy trainers who don't want other people to excel and beat them, I think, more than anything. They want them to have their same weak attitude. But the problem we have here is that that is not the way men think. That isn't an attitude in which you are going to thrive in that environment. And I'm not saying that you should be comparing your list to a world record holder. I mean, realistically, I don't mean go to the internet. When I tell people that, yes, you do need to compare your list to other people, doesn't mean you go to the internet and you look at Dan Green and go, well, I'll never catch Dan Green, or I have to catch Dan Green, or I've got to be as strong as Larry Wheels. That's not what we're saying. I'm not telling you to compare yourself to the best in the world that you see on the internet who you've never trained with. Okay? But you should be comparing yourself to your contemporaries. Perfect example. We saw a group of guys doing, and it's like I think it was like a 4 lifts competition a while back. It kind of trickled over to me. Bunch of guys of, various strength levels, but none of them were elite lifters for the most part. Some of them are advanced. Few of them are advanced. All having a friendly competition to compete with each other and compare themselves just through the internet, like little small fitness YouTube channels. Okay, that's what I'm talking about. Friendly competition. Friendly competition. Competition breeds excellence. Okay, competition is what brings out the best in us. We know that based upon every other aspect of life. A competitive environment produces excellence. It produces better results. That's the way men are built. We compete with each other. Strength falls into that area. So yes, having a friendly competition like that, that's one example. That's a positive thing. Right? It's how men bond. That's part of our peer bonding as men, competing with other men. Now, not necessarily when you get to a certain age per se, but definitely young men. It's how we bond with each other. That's how we form friendships. It's how we find our place in the world. We compete with each other. And we compete for everything. We compete for women. We compete for resources. We compete for status. We compete for better jobs. We compete for everything. And the weight room should be no different. Because at the end of the day, what is it that strength measures? Strength usually measures how much muscle you've gained relative to your frame. That's the most important factor. So if you're trying to get jacked, competing with strength with other people is a good way to motivate yourself to get jacked. And I mean, it doesn't just mean online. It can mean at your gym. You ever heard the expression, and this gets applied to training also, people always say, well, if you're the smartest person in the room, find a new room. Right? Why? Because you won't challenge yourself. Same thing with training. You'll hear the same thing. If you're the strongest person at your gym, you need to find a new gym. Okay? If you're stronger than your workout partner, he's going to drag you down. You don't train with people who are weaker than you if you can avoid it, unless you're teaching them. Now, if you're a mentor to someone else, that's fine. But you don't have a training partner who is weaker than you. He'll drag you down to his level. You're going to have a workout partner. You need to find somebody stronger than you, or who's at least at your level, and you can compete with each other. You need to be competition for each other. You will improve more. If your workout partner is weaker than you, he's going to excel and you're going to suck. You need to train alone if that's the case. You can't find a workout partner who's stronger than you, or at least at your level, and striving to do better. And I don't care what your training goals are. Strength is a measure, it's a metric of our muscle mass. Okay? It's a metric of improvement. And you need to train alone. If you're the strongest person in your gym, you need to find a new gym. You know why? It's something that many coaches and lifters have noted over decades and decades. If you join a gym where the weakest guy there has a 500-pound squat, say this again. If you join a gym, no matter how experienced you are, where the weakest guy there has a 500-pound squat, you will hit a 500-pound squat in record time. Now, people will say that's not possible. Well, it is possible. It's been seen over and over and over. Coaches and lifters have noticed that for years. Okay? Whatever the bottom of the strength level is at any gym, everybody who joins reaches that lowest tier very quickly. More quickly than usually people would ever expect to. Why? Because they're surrounded by competitive people who are pushing themselves, and they can see how they get there. Right? They see how they do it. Just like for me, guys, I mean, I vlog everything I do. You know what my training looks like. People want to say, well, how do you get a 500 squat? How do you get a 600 deadlift? I've shown you how to do it, and it probably isn't what a lot of people would expect. When you're surrounded by guys who the weakest guy there squats 500 pounds, you get a real idea of how they train, how they drive through, their mindset, what exercises they do to bring up their weak links, what their training loads, their volumes look like. You learn. And everyone there will push you because you're going to feel weak, and you need to feel competitive. You need to feel strong in that environment, and you will push yourself harder. You'll push yourself harder. Because here's the thing. The majority of guys who think they train hard do not train hard. I'm going to be honest. I know plenty of guys who think they train hard because they do some forced reps on cable curls. I know plenty of guys who think they train hard because they've watched some hardcore bodybuilding stuff and they think training hard is doing some forced reps on little exercises. They train like pussies. They're scared of really heavy weight. They're scared of big lifts. They're scared of volume. They are scared of real training volume. That's why people do silly crap like, oh, I'm going to do a triple drop set. So they don't have to do much training because they're lazy. They're lazy. No, they really are. It's true. And a lot of lazy training gets promoted. Okay? It's called training like a pussy, guys. Being afraid of big weight. Being afraid of training volume. Right? Being afraid of overtraining when you're only in the gym 5 hours a week. It's completely impossible. It will never happen. You will never, ever, ever reach an overtrained state with 5 hours in the weight room a week. Should be a non-existent concern. Okay? Non-existent concern. Unless you're starving yourself. It might be lack of food, but it's not the training. It might be lack of sleep, but it's not the training. Okay? You need to compare yourself to other people, though. You need to put yourself in a competitive environment if you want to excel. And I don't care that your goals are, well, I just want to look good. Well, you still better get strong. You know what? You don't know if you're progressing without seeing how your overload is going. And you get extra motivation when you're competing with other guys to build a bigger bench or a bigger overhead press or squat or deadlift or weighted chin up or whatever it is that they're doing. You're going to realize real quickly you have weak links that you aren't training hard enough. And when you train those weak links harder to catch those other guys, what do you think happens? You get bigger. you get more jacked. But men do not thrive in a non-competitive environment. Men are hardwired to excel in a competitive environment. Even me, I make friendly bets with different friends and lifters all the time to reach certain lifts with each other. You guys just don't see it because it's not up here on the channel. Right? Some of you guys who compete with me know who you are. We set friendly competitions. So I did my 225 press. Actually, Devin Palumbo and I had a race to that. Got a race to another guy for a 600-pound squat. That's how it works. Men are hardwired to compete. So yes, you need to compare your lifts to other people. Because if you don't, you will end up being a weak, lazy, tiny pussy.